Okay, so first thing, I'm doing a new angle today. I'm trying to get this desk view of me holding the Leica. It's really not working out very well. So we will see if this goes live or if I will just stand up like I always do. Hello. So I've been sitting on this for a while. I actually purchased this in January of this year. And I guess the reason I've been sitting on it is I haven't really known what to say or how to talk about it. And so I think the best way is to just kind of explain myself. Like, if you look at this old picture of a Fujifilm X-T5, this would have been in the early part of 2023, just after I got it. I had my 35mm f1.4R on it with the lens hood that comes with it. And I had this little red button on the thing. And just when you look at this Fujifilm, tell me what it is I'm going for with that look. It's not something I've hidden. When I got the Voigtlander 18mm, manual lens for my Fujifilm cameras, I said in my video that I wanted to practice with the 18mm or 28mm full frame equivalent. I've been aiming for this camera for a while. So welcome to my channel and welcome to my justification video for buying the Leica Q3 in 2025. Okay, let me get to why I bought this, why I justified purchasing, why I walked into the store. I've wanted a Leica because I just like well-crafted things. And this represents the best of the best as far as crafting. I also recognize that there are some other camera brands that really care about the craft, and Hasselblad is definitely one of those. I would be very interested in trying a Hasselblad for my landscape work, but that is down the road, if ever. I've wanted one of these and I've had the means to buy one for a long time, but I wouldn't allow myself to do such a thing because, first of all, there's other things to buy in this world for that much money, and there's reasons to hold on to that much money in a world that's kind of crazy. But there were ups and downs in my photography over the years. I took a lot of pictures with a new camera and then I would stop using that camera, I would fall off. But when I got the X100V and I made a commitment to myself to get back into photography and get better at photography, that camera was a revelation. I sold all my other gear to get it. It was my only camera for a year, and I learned so much in that year. I took it out every weekend and I just was methodical about going out. I just went and I took photos and I learned the camera. I learned how to go into manual mode. I learned how to control everything. And having a fixed lens camera just really took away a lot of the questions, like which focal distance should I use here? There was no question. So I just used the 23mm that was on it, or 35mm equivalent, and I went to town. So that was a really great learning experience. And then when I decided to start this channel, I got the X-T4 and everything just kind of went out of control there. And I realized that I've actually spent too much money on camera equipment at this point, but I have proven to myself that I would use it. I just finished a 365-day project, and that was really the proof. I spent a whole year going out with my camera, taking photos, and that's what this is. Like, this is my reward to myself for doing that project. This is me telling me that yes, you can spend this much money because you will use it. And so far in the 2 months that I've had it, that has been true. Now, I have my X-T50. I have all those lenses that I have for it. I have the Panasonic Lumix S52X, which I use for these videos and I use for landscape photography. This is sort of my everyday walk around, carry around everything camera. And that's definitely what it's turned into. Another reason I decided to go for it, I knew I had a bonus coming from my company, and I also have a 50th birthday coming. Sort of early birthday present to myself. So anyway, that's my justification. That's why I did it. And this Leica Q3, which is the 28mm focal length, is the one that I chose. So why did I choose the 28 over the 43? Well, that one was pretty simple. I went into a store, they had both, and I actually was leaning toward the 43, but somebody I talked to said, why don't you get the 28 and crop into 35? And I just hadn't thought of that before, and I'm so glad that I did that, because one of my absolute favorite features, and I'll try to see if I can get it on the overhead here, is you see these white lines right now? That's 35 millimeters. And when you crop into 35 millimeters, you're taking the 60 megapixel sensor and going down to like 39 megapixels, which is still fantastic, right? It's a 40 megapixel camera. And then you go into 50 megapixels, and now we're in the 24 megapixel range. And then 75 millimeters is like 12 megapixels, which is also okay. Like I have photos from my Nikon D40X, which was 10 megapixels, and those are still great, serviceable photos. 90 is not usable. I don't use that. I shoot in 35 all the time, and it's like I have a frame for my viewfinder. You know, like I can actually time things and as they walk into that frame. So it's actually been really great. I'm very happy that I chose the 28 millimeter because of that, because 35 millimeter is my favorite. And the photos I'm getting from here feel very much like I took it with a 35 millimeter camera. I framed it that way. And when you do it that way, it actually doesn't crop out anything. It just has a crop that it tells Adobe Lightroom, this is what it's cropped to. So when you go into the crop tool in Lightroom, you can actually see that there's a lot of information around where you were shooting. So you can actually recenter the frame if you wanted, or any of those things. So it's actually been great. I love that I went with the 28 millimeter. Speaking of Lightroom, one of the things that scared me right out of the gate and almost made me disappointed and buyer's remorse kind of thing was the DNG file has no information. So when you use a Panasonic Lumix or you use a Fujifilm camera and you bring it into Lightroom and you use camera matching for the raw processing, Adobe ships with a file that tries to match the look from the camera itself. So if you use classic neg on the Fujifilm and you bring it into Photoshop or Lightroom, Lightroom has classic neg, and so it looks like it did on the back of your camera when you took the photo. Leica does not have anything like that. So the way it looks on the back of your photo and the way it looks in Lightroom is totally different. And that was a little difficult at first. Fortunately, I've learned how to use Lightroom, and I'm pretty good at editing at this point, and I realized very quickly that, yeah, I lost the ability to see exactly what it is I'm shooting on the back of the screen and have it match in Lightroom. But now what I have in Lightroom is free artistic vision to edit it any way I want. And the files from here are fantastic. The files that I get out of this camera are unbelievably pliable. I feel like I can pull and push so many parts of the image. That sounds like I go crazy with image editing. I don't. I really don't. I just feel like I can get great results with this, with just the things that I like to do in Lightroom, even without the camera matching. So at this point, I use it. It's a viewfinder. You know, if I'm looking at the LCD or through the EVF, it's just a viewfinder. I'm just capturing the moment. I will get it right in Lightroom when I get home. My first impressions of the build quality are just second to none. I think it is wonderful when a company puts this much time and effort into the build of anything. It just makes me, the consumer of the product, feel like they cared enough to make it, you know, well crafted. And to me, I put weight on that. So when you ask, why would you spend so much money on a camera? I would answer, because they care about my experience with it. They want me to enjoy using it. And that's how I feel about it. So when I talk about build quality stuff, like, okay, this is a lens hood. This is the lens hood, it's threaded. No matter where you put the lens hood on and start, it doesn't matter how you put it on, as soon as you catch the thread, it will, because they machined it this way, it will machine perfectly to its stopping point. And I just love little details like that. I love it. The other one is in macro mode. This is kind of hard to see. I'll try to get it in the overhead. When you're in macro mode and you're switching to normal mode, you can see that the focal distance changes. Now, when you actually slide it in, you can see that it eases in and out. They don't just jam it forward and back. There's like this ease that happens at the end. I know it's a subtle detail, but it's stuff like that I geek out about. I love well-crafted things. So yeah, this all metal build feels great in the hand. I love it. Another thing that has been very interesting is the software on here is so much nicer to use than the Fujifilm or the Panasonic or any other camera system I've ever used, the Sony, the Nikon. There's a lot of well-considered layout to the software, and it just became really easy to use for me. The way this is designed, the way they've designed it is to get out of your way. And I feel like that's exactly what it does. It completely gets out of my way. I don't really think about these things. When I need to change the focus, when I'm trying to say, okay, well, I don't want to use zone focusing anymore, I can, go change that to multi-field, and there, now I'm in multi-field focusing. So I don't really think about it, and the fact that I don't think about it means I'm taking photos. Now, this lens has been so incredible that I definitely understand why this is a gateway drug product, because if all their lenses are as good as this or better, that's incredible. This lens is astonishing. Like, one of the things that I don't like about a lens is over sharpen. I don't like it to be so sharp that it almost looks wrong to my eyes. This does a very good job of being both incredibly sharp and soft. And I wish I could explain it better than that. I'm not sure if the photos that I share will really show what I'm talking about, where there's elements of the photo that are in focus that are very, very crisp, very clean. And then there are parts of the photo that aren't in focus, but they're not like completely fallen off. They're not destroyed by the open aperture. They just sort of softly fall. And it has such an almost ethereal look to it. I really, really love this lens. I have been getting such great photos from this. I've just been really delighted with it. The way I feel about this camera is it is my everyday. It is my everything camera. And it does not replace anything. That's one thing that I've learned about my own I don't know. What I've done in the past is I'll go all in on something and then I'll regret it. And I've heard too many people talk about regretting giving up their Fujifilm camera, or regretting giving up the 35mm 1.4 on Fujifilm. And I didn't want to be that person. That still has a place in my world. The Panasonic I use for totally utilitarian reasons. It's a video camera first. It is a landscape photography device second. That's my justification video. I don't know. I know this, it's totally ridiculous that it took me this long to make this, but I really wanted to make sure that I kind of captured like why I wanted it so much, and why I thought now was the right time to get it. And turning 50, it's one of those things that you're like, well,
treat yourself. Treat yourself.
And so I hope you enjoyed it. I know this one was a little bit rambling. I'll try to see if I can edit it. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give it a thumbs up or subscribe. That's always helpful, makes me excited. And as always, I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.